Hi students, today we are going to learn about the social transformation in Tamil Nadu. The half of the 18th century and beginning of the 19th century was an important period of transformation in India. Europeans established their power in India. They made new revenue settlement in India and also tried to force their culture over the Indian people. Some of the educated Indians humiliated and opposed. Why means some of the changes brought in by the Europeans, because they brought the new changes. That changes will affect the Indians. Only the educated person humiliated and opposed this. But some of the Indians were accept the changes which were good for the society. This resulted in social and religious reform movement. This is known as the Renaissance. Today in this lesson, we will be studying about the transformation that happened in Tamil Nadu, Tamil Renaissance. There are several reasons which forms the basis for the Tamil Renaissance. For example, printing press, research on Dravidian languages, etc. Initially, only the religious literature were taken up the publications. But after the emergence of printing technology, even secular works were taken up for publishing. First of all, we should know the meaning of what is secular, not connected to any religious ideas and practices. Now, the next one, the advent of the printing technology. How the printing technology came to exist in our society. Tamil was the first non-European language that went for printing. In 1709, a full-fledged printing press had been established. You should remember this. When the printing press established means, in 1709, a full-fledged printing press had been established. Tirukural was one of the earliest Tamil literary text to be published in 1812. We know about the Tirukural. They used to call the Tirukural as a Podumarai. There is no religious chaffair in that Tirukural. This encouraged more Tamil scholars in publishing more Tamil classics. C.W. Thamodaranar, U.V. Saminadar made efforts in discovering the Tamil classics. They collected and edited the palm leaf manuscripts of the Tamil grammar and literature. Why means? Those days, there is no printing technology. That's why what they did, they tried to give awareness regarding why we have suffered lot under the domination of the European people. That's why they want to give the more importance to the classical language. U.V. Saminadar Iyer is a very important person. What he did? He only wrote and kept the record in the palm leaves. Especially the palm leaf manuscripts, you can see the C.W. Thamodaranar. What are the important books they wrote and kept in the palm leaves? You can understand the meaning of palm leaves. See there in the picture they are given the palm leaf pictures. In the palm leaf manuscripts, they are given Tolkapiyam, Veerathozhiyam, Irayanar Agapporul, Ilakkiya Vilakkam, Kalittogai, Sulamani. The same thing U.V. Saminadar, Sivaga Sindhamani, Pattupattu, Silapadigaram, Purananuru, Manimegalai, Padittu Pattu. These are the manuscripts they are given through the palm leaves. These rediscovered editions and the publications created awareness among the Tamil people about their tradition, language, literature, religion. The ancient Tamil classics are collectively known as Sangam literature. Some of the Tamil intellectuals argued that Tamil was a language of the Dravidian people and their social life was casteless, gender. Tamil Renaissance contributed to the origin and growth of Dravidian consciousness in the Tamil country. B.J. Surya Narayanan Sastri was a Tamil professor at Madras Christian College. He was the first person to argue that Tamil is a classical language. He introduced sonnet form in Tamil. What is a sonnet? Sonnet is a 14-line poem which has a 8-line stanza and a 6-line stanza. He was one of the scholars who identified the influence of Sanskrit in Tamil. Next one, Marai Malai Adigal. Who is that Marai Malai Adigal? Marai Malai Adigal is the father of the Tamil linguistic purism, founder of the Tani Tamil Iyakkam, and he served as a Tamil teacher in Madras Christian College. He worked in journal Siddhartha Deepika. He was inclined towards non-Brahmin movements also. Marai Malai Adigal promoted the use of pure Tamil words. He tried to remove the influence of Sanskrit in Tamil. His daughter Neelambigai also supported him in this movement. How he re-christening means he changed the names. Name Vedachalam to Marai Malai Adigal. Journal Jana Sangaram is tried to give the Arivu Kadal. An institution Samarasa Sanmarga Sangam Pudu Nilai Kazhagam. The Dravidian movement a defense of the non-Brahmins. When the started in 1909, what happened means the Madras Non-Brahmin Association was founded. In 1912, the Madras United League was formed by C. Natesana. Now you know who is a Natesan, Dr. C. Natesan. He is the main person to form the Madras United League was formed by C. Natesanar. In which year means in 1912. Later, he renamed to Madras Dravidian Association. This organization helped in educating and supporting non-Brahmin graduates. We want to give the more opportunities to the non-Brahmins. Those days also, only the Brahmins got the facilities to get the education. They know how to get the education also. That's why Dr. C. Natesan came forward and they gave the more support to the non-Brahmins also. We want to give the education in the full also to the non-Brahmins. And 1916, Natesanar founded a hostel named the Dravidian Home. The next one, you can learn about the Justice Party. When the Justice Party started, for what purpose they started the Justice Party? How many members are involved in the Justice Party? Why, what and when we can get the knowledge about the Justice Party now. On November 1916, around 30 non-Brahmin leaders came together to form the South Indian Liberation Federation. They used to say SILF. The full form of SILF means South Indian Liberation Federation. A non-Brahmin manifesto was released in December 1916 at a meeting held in the Victoria Hall. The newspapers published by the association. The newspaper, the Dravidian newspaper published in Tamil and Justice published in English and Andhra Pradesh in Telugu. The first election was held in 1920 after the introduction of hierarchy form of government. The Justice Party won the election and formed the first ever Indian cabinet in Madras. A. Subbarayulu became the chief minister of the Madras presidency. The Justice Party formed the government during 1920 to 1923 and 1923 to 1926. Since the Congress Party boycotted the legislature, the Justice Party continued in the office till 1937. Elections were held. In the 1937 elections, the Indian National Congress contested and won the elections. Now we can see the programs and activities. Widened education and employment opportunities for the majority of the population. The legal interdicts restricting inter-caste marriage were broken. Depressed class were also allowed to use the public wells and chanks. The public schools accommodated the children of the depressed classes. Justice Party government was the first party to approve the participation of women in electoral politics in 1921. Don't forget this year, the Justice Party only gave the chance to involve in the election, especially for the women. So, Justice Party government was the first party to approve the participation of women in electoral politics in 1921. This paved the way for Muthulakshmi Ammaiya to become the first women legislature in India in 1926. The Staff Election Board was established in 1924 for the selection of government officials. Now we can move on to the self-respect movement. What's the mean by that self-respect movement? Each an individual need the self-respect as a own. We can see about the self-respect in the political line. This is also known as a Suya Mariyade Iyakam. One more name they are given to the self-respect movement. What is the name for the self-respect movement? One more name means Suya Mariyade Iyakam. The self-respect movement aimed in forming a casteless society. It considered and promoted the self-respect as the birthright of all human beings. Yes, of course, we need a self-respect as well as a birthright of all human beings. Yes, we want a birthright. For what purpose we came to our society? We didn't ask permission to anyone else. We want to birth and brought up in India, but somewhat we are treated as a slaves, especially some uneducated person. They are treated like a slaves only. The more people, the scholars, they wanted to give the real life to the each and everyone in the society. That's why they started the self-respect movement. It considered and promoted the self-respect as a birthright of the all human beings. It declared illiteracy as a cause of women's subordination and promoted compulsory elementary education for all. When we eradicate all the things means unwanted things in our society means unless we can get the proper education, we won't do anything after that. That's why they promoted the compulsory elementary education, the basic education given to all, and who is the main person to introduce all these kinds of self-respect movement means none other person, Periyar E.V.R. Who is the Periyar? Already you know about the Periyar. If I ask question also, you are ready to give the answer about the Periyar. Now, in our lesson, it's a time for us to learn about the Periyar. Periyar E.V. Ramasamy was a founder of the self-respect movement. His selfless public service made him a popular personality. He launched an anti-Hindi agitation movement for opposition to introduce compulsory Hindi in schools. As the president of Tamil Nadu Congress Committee, Periyar proposed a resolution regarding the right of untouchables to temple entry. Periyar was disappointed when, despite his objections and protests against this discrimination, the Congress continued to support the iniquitous practices in the Gurukulam. Periyar wrote a column and expressed his views on social issues in each of his issues. We can see the two pictures here, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and Periyar, and one more picture is also they given here. You can easily to see the women's picture, say to child marriage, and one more, they carrying their hands, the women, the property right of women they given. Okay, who gave the more importance for this kind of attitude here? Periyar opposed the child marriage and Devadasi system. He had been emphasizing on women's right to divorce and property. Periyar believed that property rights for women would provide them a social status and protection. Periyar got Dr. Ambedkar's Annihilation of Caste. One more book, the Periyar translated into Tamil. Who gave this Annihilation of Caste means Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave this book to Periyar's hands, and Periyar, what he did, he translated into Tamil. He supported the Ambedkar demands for separate electorates for scheduled caste. We can see about the labor movements in Tamil Nadu. The First World War caused an industrial growth during the War of Industries Act. Employed huge number of workers, but at the end of the war, there were retrenchment across the industries. They'll give the work, but they are not ready to pay the exact payment to the persons. They are ready to work also because they want to fill their stomach. They want to survive on their society. But they suffered a lot also. All this led to the labor movements. Once they got the awareness, they have started do the strike in front of the industries. In 1918, India's first trade union, the Madras Labour Union, was formed. The first All India Trade Union Conference was held on 31st October 1920. It's a very, very important event. When they are asking in the timeline chart, you should mention this kind of events also. The first All India Trade Union Conference was held on 31st October 1920, where several resolutions were discussed in that conference. Some of the resolutions are given here: the protection from the police interference in the labor disputes. They don't want the police interference in the labor. One more thing, the maintenance of unemployment register. They have to maintain the unemployment register. Then only they can easily to understand how many people have got job, how many people are able to survive on the society and everything. The next one, the restriction on exporting foodstuff. The fourth one, compensation for injuries. Sometimes they'll get injuries, means they won't bother about anything. They'll get the job. They make use of the laborers for their own sake, but they are not given the protection for them. That's why they are mentioning these points also. Compensation for injuries. And then they wanted to start the health insurance also. The next topic we are going to discuss about the women's movement. There were several movements and organization for the welfare of women. Out of them, Women's India Association and All India Women's Conferences were considered to be important ones. Many leaders came to our society and they proved their own personalities in front of our society. But at the same time, important leaders only took the initiative action for the sake of women. The association published the pamphlets and bulletin details the problems of personal hygiene, marriage law, voting rights, child care, etc. Why? We can ask ourselves why they are introducing this kind of problems here in front of society. Means day-to-day life also we can compare with this policies. Sometimes marriage law also there, whether nowadays many infrastructure and mass media and other the modern technology will spoil a marriage law. Now they are ready to say, we don't want to live along with my husband. And one more thing, we are not realizing about voting rights. We got the voting rights. We people to take initiative ourselves to put the vote and elect the leaders. They gave the opportunity to put the vote for especially for the women. And what about the child care? Nowadays, we can't say, we can't express our words and thoughts. Many people, they take care of their child. Sometimes in the society, there is no guarantee. Now we can compare our child care day-to-day life, means it's question mark only. But when they took the initiative, this kind of attitudes, means in 80s, in 90s itself. Okay, so they given the more importance for the child care also. This association was started by Annie Besant. See, Annie Besant is a great person, and one more person also, Dorothy and Ingadasa and Margaret Cousins. These are the people joined together and give the full freedom to the women. And they want to protect the women's life. They want to give the freedom to survive on the society. These are the things after the Europeans came to our India, especially in Tamil Nadu. All the social leaders joined together and came to the conclusion they want to give some changes in the society in the nook and corner. Yes, of course, they gave the changes also. They got the result also, but not as simple manner. They got the result. Yes, of course, they are also. That's all about the transformation. We'll come to the conclusion there. Started with Tamil Renaissance. It followed by the rise of famous personalities supporting the various good social reforms. The rise of Dravidian movement, the formation of South Indian Liberal Federation, the self-respect movement, the labor movements, and the women's movement contributed to the total social reform of Tamil Nadu. I hope you can understand the value of social transformation in Tamil Nadu. Yes, students, I am going to wind up my class. Before that, I want to give the recap for you. First, we learnt about the Tamil Renaissance. What is the mean by that? Tamil Renaissance means there are several reasons which forms the basis for the Tamil Renaissance. For example, printing press, research or Dravidian language, etc. And we learnt about the advent of the printing technology. When the printing technology fledged in 1709 and the full-fledged printing press had been established in 1709 only. And when the Tirukural came to our mind, especially in the 18th and 19th century itself, they spoke about the Tirukural was one of the most earliest Tamil literary text to be published in 1812, in the 18th century itself. So, this encouraged the more Tamil scholars in publishing the more Tamil classics. So, Tirukural only gave the way for to start the other Tamil literature and Tamil classics also there. And not only, we should not forget about the C.W. Thamodaranar and U.V. Saminatha Iyer. They introduced many palm leaf manuscripts. Through there, we learnt many things. You can take up the Tolkapiyam and Veerathozhiyam, Irayana Agaporul. They are talking of the Agaporul means what is the Agaporul and Puraporul. Everything we are learnt in the smaller class when we are learnt in the Tamil. And Kalitogai, Sulamani and U.V. Saminatha also wrote the many things. Sivaka Sindhamani, Pattu Pattu, then Manimegalai and Paditru Pattu. They are ready to give the social values to the people through the palm leaf manuscripts. And not only that, we can rediscover the editions and their publications, create the awareness among the Tamil people about their traditions. We can get the traditions. Now also we are following some traditions through the ancestors. We are learnt everything there. Through the ancestors only we are learning the tradition and culture, language, literature and religion also there. Then we can learn about the Tamil intellectual argument that Tamil was a language of the Dravidian people. It's the main thing. We should think about that. So, mother tongue, Tamil language is a main language for our life. And we learnt about the Maraimalai Adigal. He is one of the popular person. How he promoted the use of the pure Tamil words. Now we used to the Kochai language only, but not the Maraimalai Adigal is not like that. He fought for the pure Tamil words. He tried to remove the influence of the Sanskrit in Tamil as well as along with his daughter also involved that and also supported him in this movement. And we know about the Dr. C. Natesan. He is also a main person. He only started the Madras United League, was founded by the Dr. Natesan, the later renamed to Madras Dravidian Association. He only the main person to change that name, the Madras Dravidian Association. And we can see about the Justice Party, how many members are there, in which year they have started the Justice Party, how they are given the name South Indian Liberation Federation. In 1916 only the Justice Party started. The 30 non-Brahmin leaders came together and formed the South Indian Liberation Federation also there. Then we can talk about the Subbarayalu means he only became the chief minister of the Madras presidency. Not only that, the Justice Party formed the government during 1922, 1923 and 1923 to 1926. Why I am mentioning this here? You should remember this point while they are asking the timeline chart, the main events you have to keep it in the mind and you have to reduce there the main events. And one more thing, in the 1937 elections, the Indian National Congress contested and won the election also. Then we can talk about the self-respect movement, about the Periyar, E.V.R. The Periyar E.V. Ramasamy was the founder of the self-respect movement, we know, and he only eradicated the unwanted things from the society and uplift the society. And we know about women's rights, how they are talking about the women's rights, how they brought it to the society. And we learned about the labor movement in Tamil Nadu, how they are started the labor movement. When they have started the labor union In 1918 also very important. In 1918 India's first trade union, the Madras Labour Union was formed. Then we saw the women's movement, and we can see the conclusion now started with Tamil Renaissance, followed by the rise of famous personalities supporting the various goods and social reforms, the rise of the Dravidian movement, the formation of the South Indian Liberal Federation, the self-respect movement, the labor movements and the women's movement contributed to the total social reforms of Tamil Nadu. I hope you can understand. Okay students, I'll wind up my class. All the best for your future. Thank you.